What if I told you that the greatest mysteries hidden by NASA are not about aliens, UFOs, or strange lights in the sky, but about us? What if I told you that behind the clean white hallways, the polished steel, and the glowing mission screens, there are documents, real documents, that were never meant for the public eye? Files marked restricted. Files quietly declassified only after the people involved had died. Files that reveal experiments, accidents, secrets, and anomalies so unsettling, you'll never look at space the same way again. So let your breathing slow. Let the noise of the day fade as we enter a place where science, fear, ambition, and silence meet. Because tonight, we are opening the NASA files they never wanted you to read. It begins long before rockets touched the sky. In the 1940s and 50s, before NASA existed, brilliant scientists were already dreaming of space travel. But while the world saw newspaper headlines about progress and innovation deep inside government facilities, another truth simmered. Space was not a frontier. It was a battlefield. The Cold War had just begun. The United States feared one thing above all else: falling behind. So in the rush to reach space first, secrecy became the foundation. And secrets became the fuel. When NASA was officially created in 1958, the public saw hope. They saw heroic astronauts, white suits, photographs of Earth from above. But behind the smiling press conferences, there were rooms the public never entered. Rooms where documents were stamped, not for public release. Rooms where experiments were conducted with results too strange, too confusing, or too dangerous to share. And the first secret sits in one of the oldest files, a project so quiet that most NASA employees at the time didn't even know it existed. It was called Project Horizon. The idea was simple, but disturbing. The United States planned to build a military base on the moon, not for exploration, not for science, but to place weapons in space before the Soviets could. And inside these files, buried in yellowed pages, is a detail even stranger. Plans for the first humans to live on the moon included instructions for occupying lunar caves, because NASA believed underground chambers could protect astronauts from radiation. But here's the part they never talked about. Some of the diagrams, official diagrams, show structures based on existing tunnels. Tunnels no human had made. Why would NASA engineers draw plans using caves they hadn't discovered yet? Why would they even assume such caves existed? The documents never explain. They only say, potential subsurface voids noted, with no explanation how they were noted, decades before the first lunar rover. And that's just the beginning. Another file, long classified, describes a transmission NASA received during early lunar tests. A sound, a repeating signal, a pattern that did not match natural cosmic noise. The file doesn't label it alien, it doesn't speculate. It only states, signal source unknown, frequency persistent, interference not from mission hardware. NASA dismissed it as atmospheric distortion, but the recording was never released. When astronauts finally did land on the moon in 1969, millions watched. But the public only saw what was broadcast. The full audio, unedited, was stored away. And inside that audio are parts NASA did not air. Pauses, long stretches of silence, periods where astronauts were responding to something off-camera. Neil Armstrong described the surface as magnificent desolation. But between transmissions, he said something far stranger. A line recorded, transcribed, and later buried. It's not what they told us. It's something else. The transcript ends there. No follow-up. No explanation. Now, fast forward. As missions continued, NASA launched probes deeper into space. Some of these probes sent back images that scientists couldn't explain. One such image, filed under anomalous terrain, shows a shadow on Mars. Not a rock, not a crater, a structure, perfectly geometric, too perfect for natural erosion. The official explanation? Light distortion. But engineers privately wrote in the margins, symmetry inconsistent with random formation. Why hide something that simple? Why edit it out of the public release? Then there's the problem of the astronauts themselves. Most astronauts are calm, disciplined, mentally resilient, but several, after returning from deep space missions, reported nightmares, hallucinations, an unexplainable sense of being watched. NASA psychologists wrote these off as post-mission stress, but one memo, never meant to be public, describes a veteran astronaut who woke up screaming every night saying, "They followed us back." Followed by who or what? The memo doesn't answer. It simply states, "Subject will not fly again." Another astronaut, whose interview was locked in an archive, claimed that during a mission he saw lights moving beneath him in perfect formation, far too fast to be satellites, far too controlled to be debris. NASA told him not to speak about it. He retired early. And then, there's the file labeled the Black Notebook. The existence of this notebook was denied publicly for years, but inside NASA, everyone whispered about it. It was said to be kept locked in a vault with restricted access. Only directors could open it. Only a handful of engineers had read it. And every person who spoke about it said the same thing. It was the one document that made me question everything. The notebook contains reports from astronauts on long-duration missions. Reports never released. Reports describing things science could not explain. Lights that moved with intention, dark shapes drifting silently outside the capsule. Voices heard in radio channels that were supposed to be empty. A feeling of presence, not human, but aware. And the most disturbing entry comes from a mission that lost contact for 21 minutes. NASA blamed equipment failure, but the notebook records something else. The astronaut wrote, "I saw something outside the window. It was looking at me." When contact was restored, he sounded calm. Too calm. After landing, he requested immediate psychological evaluation. Months later, he resigned. NASA never commented. Another set of restricted files documents the deep space recording anomalies. These describe sounds picked up by spacecraft in regions of space where sound should not exist. One recording was so strange that technicians thought the equipment was malfunctioning, but after running diagnostics, they confirmed the sound was real. A low, rhythmic pulse, almost like a heartbeat, but too slow, too deep, too steady. Scientists tried to analyze it. No theory fit. The file ends with a line scribbled by hand. Do not release. Now, let's come closer to home. In the late 1990s, NASA was preparing a mission when they detected a signal near Earth, a signal unlike any they had cataloged before. It repeated every few minutes, intelligent, structured, deliberate. It wasn't coming from a satellite. It wasn't coming from Earth. The source was moving. When NASA tracked it, the signal suddenly stopped. Silence. NASA wrote a short public statement. Unexplained telemetry anomaly. And that was it. The internal file is longer, much longer. It states, source exhibited maneuverability, inconsistent with known space objects. Then, handwritten at the bottom, it noticed us. But perhaps the most guarded secret is not about signals, or strange lights, or sounds in deep space. It is about something far closer. During research on long-term space habitation, NASA conducted studies on human perception in isolation. They placed volunteers in sensory deprivation chambers to simulate the darkness of space. Some participants reported visions, but not random visions, the same visions. A landscape, a set of structures, a sky with unfamiliar colors, a feeling of returning somewhere they had never been. No explanation exists for how unrelated people described the same place. NASA quietly ended the study. All results were archived, never released, but scattered through the file are small notes, almost hidden. What are they remembering? Why do they all describe the same horizon? Shared hallucination unlikely. And then, the place does not match any known celestial body. Now, after all of these documents, reports, and secrets, there is one last file, the most unsettling. A simple envelope labeled, Unresolved, Do Not Destroy. Inside are photographs from various missions. Most are harmless, but a few are different. One shows an object near Earth's upper atmosphere. Large, symmetrical, shaped like a black wing. Another shows a light that changes direction instantly. Something no human aircraft can do. Another, taken from the ISS, shows a shadow, a giant shadow, moving across the surface of Earth. Not a cloud, not debris. Something else. NASA never explained these images. Not a cloud, not debris. Something else. NASA never explained these images. They never released them. And at the back of the envelope, folded, is one final paper, a memo from an unnamed director. It reads, "There are things we cannot share, there are things we cannot explain, and there are things we are not prepared to face." Then, underlined twice, "Some discoveries are not meant for us." So what is NASA hiding? Are these anomalies just scientific mysteries, misread data, human imagination in the void of space, or is it something more, something watching, something waiting, something older than us and far more patient? One day, the files may be opened to the world. One day, the silence may break. Until then, these pages remain in shadow, locked away, unspoken, unexplained. But the truth, whatever it is still out there, drifting in the dark, watching us back. And that is why they never wanted you to read the NASA files.